Chapter 41. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The better the military gear, the more features it has. Crappy gear has negative features, plain Jane gear has no features, rare gear has one feature, and so on. Top-notch gear has 3 features. Right now, Wu Qi was strapped for cash, so he skipped upgrading the forge and went straight to cranking out level 1 equipment. One standard Qin army kit costs 10 void crystals, so a full set is 40. In one go, Wu Qi burned through 400 void crystals to make 10 sets, then kitted out his soldiers, fresh off the forge. Their old equipment was totally bland, but after the upgrade, they looked seriously imposing. Bronze masks and black bird feathers held back their long hair. Over their dark clothes, they wore half-body bronze armor that fit just right without being bulky. "Thank you, Your Majesty. We're ready to die for you." The beauties bowed, their faces full of deadly resolve. They were like weapons ready to be unleashed, eager to show their edge. "All right. Head to the palace and pick out your rooms." Wu Qi smiled. "When there's a fight, I'll call on you." "Yes." The women left. Watching them go, Wu Qi turned to his other rewards. The only things he hadn't dealt with yet were a free attribute point and the Swallow the Weather in 1 Bite skill book. Free attribute points are always good, but he didn't need it right now, so Wu Qi decided to save it for a rainy day. As for the skill book, this was a top-tier martial arts manual. And something special. It was a golden legendary skill book. Swallow the Weather in 1 Bite. Type, National Martial Arts Secret Technique, Level 10, Quality, Golden Legend. Description: Learn the Chinese martial art, swallow the weather in 1 bite. Requirements: Physical fitness 100, Spirit 50. This book has gotta be this good because of the three-headed Buddha. How is a regular newbie lord supposed to beat that boss? Wu Qi thought back and couldn't help but sigh. The three-headed Buddha was a total noob killer. During the rookie trial, even those rich, pampered kids were doomed if they ran into it. So, after killing it, Wu Qi wasn't surprised to get a level 10 golden skill book. Wu Qi thought for a moment, got up, and went to the hut. Before he could even knock, Lin Daiyu was already inside, playing with her hair, her pretty eyes blinking, like she was lost in thought. Wu Qi walked in, and Lin's ears twitched. She knew who it was. She turned and smiled. "My lord. Are you finished?" "Almost. Just one more thing." Wu Qi shrugged. Lin tilted her head. "Need my help?" "Not really. I'm here to give you something." Wu Qi smiled mysteriously, pulled Swallow the Weather in 1 bite from his inventory, and handed it over. Lin took it, a hint of surprise on her beautiful face, but without a word, she started learning it right away. P.S. Please add to your library. Working hard on updates. Chapter 50 Swallow the Weather in 1 bite. 2/4. Please collect. The skill book turned into a beam of light and poured into Lin Daiyu's body. She closed her eyes, seemingly entered a meditative state of learning and understanding. Wu Qi sat on a chair, leaned against the table, and watched her. Lady Lin was usually a gentle soul, but she could also give you a tongue lashing, and her skills weren't bad either. When she got weird, she didn't use dirty words, and her clever, playful insults left you both loving and hating her. However, she seemed much calmer now. Suddenly, Lin Daiyu opened her eyes, a glint of light flashed in her eyes, and she looked thoughtful. Then, she noticed Wu Qi's gaze and asked, confused, "Young master?" Wu Qi snapped out of it and coughed. "How's it feel to be daydreaming?" "Very good, this skill has greatly improved my strength." Lin smiled, her pretty eyes turned playful, and she realized Wu Qi was staring at her earlier. She immediately smiled and glared at him playfully. Wu Qi didn't notice her gaze, and looked directly at her attribute panel. Lin Daiyu. Omitted, skills, Bajiquan, swallow the weather in 1 bite, swallow the weather in 1 bite. Type, secret technique of Chinese martial arts. Skill quality, golden legend. Skill level, 1 and 9. 0/1000, attribute 1, passive, constitution +10, spirit +10, attribute 2, passive, movement speed +1%, attribute 3, active, hold innate energy in your mouth, enter the swallow the sky state, and attacks deal additional true damage, with a multiplier of, Constitution plus Spirit, x 0.1, Attribute 4, active, swallow the weather in one bite, destroy 30,000 miles. Explode all the swallowed weather in the body, dealing a high amount of true damage. Swallow the weather in one bite, will be ineffective for 24 hours after use. Description: exhaling can kill people, destroy cities, and open the sky. This is a martial arts skill, that after reading it, Wuqi couldn't help but gasp, forget it, that he wasn't going to breathe in the cold air, with a beautiful woman next to him. If he was going to breathe, he'd breathe in her fragrance. In short, this martial arts skill was a bit scary. Double passive and double active skills, how could it be normal? That's wild, Wuqi said with a sigh, suddenly, that he had an idea. Did the attributes added by the martial arts skill count as hero attributes? Instead of being additional attributes like equipment and bonds? Thinking of this, his heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly looked at Lin Dayu's attributes. Lin Dayu, omitted, physique, 460 plus 21, basic attribute 35, skill attribute 10, multiplier 1000%. Equipment attribute, 21, bond attribute, 10, spirit, 150 plus 7, basic attribute 4, skill attribute 10, multiplier 1000%. Equipment attribute, 7, bond attribute, 10. Bingo! Wuqi's eyes lit up. Just now, when Lin said that she felt a big improvement, Wuqi didn't realize it, but what kind of person was Sister Lin? Chapter 42. You are listening at novelfull.audio. She didn't overestimate her newfound power. 10 attribute points were nothing to Lin Dayu, merely the combat strength of 10 regular soldiers. Negligible, but, with the territory's special bonuses, a full 100 points to both physical fitness and spiritual growth. Of course, she felt incredibly powerful. I bet I could easily take down that monster from last night now. Lin Dayu, as if reading Wuqi's mind, spoke softly. That monster from the previous night was terrifying. They both knew it. If they were as weak as yesterday, the monster tied today, and even any new boss that showed up, would be a major problem. But, now she wasn't scared. This is fighting fire with fire. Gotta keep moving forward, one step at a time. Wuqi was energized and said confidently, just wait, you'll only get stronger. Okay. I'll do as you say, sir. Lin Dayu replied sweetly, her eyes filled with affection. Time flew by. Before they knew it, it was lunchtime. One of the cooks tried to prove his skills, but Qin Keqing insisted on doing the cooking herself, so he gave up. Actually, the cook wasn't bad. He made home-style dishes, common stuff, and with enough practice, how could it taste bad? It was just that Wuqi hadn't been picky in his previous life, so his own cooking was hasty and basic. Now, with the data digitized, the quality would come off as exceptionally low. Union Guest House, Wuqi and the two heroes shared a table, while 10 Daqin warriors sat at several others. The place seemed lively, but the best part was, all of these soldiers were beautiful women, the cream of the crop. P.S. Please collect. Chapter 51, Stomach King Lin Dayu, 3/4. Please collect. Swallowing the weather whole, not only made Lin Dayu physically stronger, but also gave her an enormous appetite. In front of everyone, Sister Lin downed 30 bowls of rice without breaking a sweat, leaving everyone speechless. Besides the dishes Qin Keqing had specially added for her, Sister Lin claimed she could eat a whole cow. Back at Union Guest House, the 10 Qin warriors had already finished their meal and sat in the hall, staring at her in amazement. Wuqi was also surprised and couldn't help laughing. Dayu, did you switch careers to professional eater? Sir. Lin Dayu already felt mortified. And when her master teased her, she blushed in embarrassment, her eyes full of charm. She glared at Wuqi resentfully and defended herself. National martial arts refines essence into qi. A breath of innate qi means transforming the acquired into the innate. It strengthens the body and refines a breath in the heart, granting magical powers. I. Speaking of which, she couldn't even stay seated and regretted her words. Wuqi watched her, amused, this was a rare chance to see Sister Lin flustered. If he had known, he would have brought a camera. Just then, one of the Qin warriors spoke up, her eyes shining. Eating well is a good thing, Your Majesty. Don't tease Miss Lin. Exactly. You need to be full to have the strength to fight. Looking at Miss Lin's appetite, she must be full of vitality. A great woman to bear children. Not a bad match for Your Majesty. Maybe she'll be your wife soon. The 10 beautiful women chimed in, they had personalities like that. They said whatever came to mind, direct and unfiltered. They were a complete contrast to Lin Daiyu and Qin Keqing. Their lively chatter wasn't gentle or refined, but gave off a hearty, genuine feeling. There was no hidden meaning, just plain talk. Lin Daiyu was so embarrassed that she huffed, her face red, "You little hussies, if you want to be his wife, climb into his bed yourself. Why bring me into it?" Then she seized the opportunity to escape. The Qin warriors laughed. One of them winked at Wu Qi and asked, "Your Majesty, should we arrange someone to keep you company tonight?" "No need. After you've eaten, get back to the wooden wall and stand guard." Wu Qi saw that the fire had spread to him and glared at them unhappily. The pretty ladies were just joking. When they saw Wu Qi give the order, they immediately straightened up, saluted, put on their gear, and headed out. Soon after, Qin Keqing rushed over with a plate of food and asked in surprise, "Where's Daiyu? She ate too much and had a social anxiety attack." Wu Qi waved his hand. "I have no idea where she's hiding now. It must have been the young master." Qin Keqing smiled and put the food in front of Wu Qi. "Young master, are you full? Or else?" "I'm not full yet, but my stomach is." Wu Qi's heart skipped a beat, and he blurted it out. Qin Keqing was taken aback and didn't react at first. The next moment, Wu Qi took her hand and pulled her into his arms. The beauty was warm and fragrant. Her graceful body was soft and yielding. Wu Qi put his arm around her waist, rested his head on her shoulder, and gazed at her profile. Qin Keqing's profile was also beautiful. Her phoenix eyes expressive, her delicate face looked beautiful at every angle and had a charming air. She seemed incredibly shy in Wu Qi's arms. Beneath her smooth hair, a hint of red appeared on her earlobe, creeping down her neck. "Young master," Qin Keqing spoke softly, sounding both like crying and complaining. It seemed to tug at Wu Qi's heart, making his blood rush and his eyes glow. Just then, boom! There was an explosion outside. "Monsters are coming." Qin Keqing snapped to attention, hesitated, and quickly broke free from Wu Qi's embrace and ran out. Seeing her panic, Wu Qi couldn't help but smile and followed her. Another wave of monsters appeared in the fog. This time, they came from the same direction, numbering around 200. Most were skeleton shield warriors, with a few skeleton mages. The monsters on the 11th day were more numerous, but individually weaker than yesterday's. The explosion was from the automatic defense tower attack. Boom! 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 The elemental and stink towers opened fire one after another. Those towers took out nearly half of the skeleton soldiers. Their power was astounding. On the wooden wall, 10 Qin warriors held Qin crossbows, their faces serious. Chapter 52, Massacre. 4/4. Please collect. The situation was looking good. When Wu Qi reached the wooden wall, he saw that half of the skeleton soldiers had already been destroyed by the defense towers. Chapter 43. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 10 Qin warriors, crossbows raised, were on high alert, their eyes fixed on the distance. The defense tower could handle this easily. Wu Qi approached. The warriors snapped to attention. "Your Majesty." "At ease." Wu Qi gazed out, curious about his warriors' combat prowess. He paused, then ordered the defense tower to cease fire. At that moment, the tower's relentless barrage had left only a few dozen of the original 200+ skeleton soldiers standing. Undaunted by the pause, they continued their assault on the wooden wall, dragging their bony frames forward. Bang! Bang! These weren't your average skeletons. The defense tower had struggled more than it should have against them. Frankly, these were a formidable type of undead soldiers for this early stage of the game, a shield warrior and mage combo. That's a small war right there. Any new lord would have a headache facing this. A moment's carelessness could spell disaster. When they get closer, take them out. Wu Qi instructed. The women nodded, their eyes locked on the advancing skeletons. Soon, the remaining skeleton soldiers were just a short distance from the wooden wall. The skeleton mage raised its hands, frost and fire coalescing. The contrasting energies swirled into fireball and frost spells. Dual casting. This is no ordinary mage, Wu Qi muttered, but without worry, a wave of magic slammed into the wall. The damage was negligible, a mere dent in the withered wood wall. Defenses, durability -25. Durability -25. Durability -25. The wooden wall structure was based on individual units, each with its own durability. The numbers flashing on the screen looked dramatic, but each section barely lost any strength, no real threat here. The skeleton shield warriors formed a defensive line, a wall of shields, and slowly advanced. Behind them, the skeleton mages kept casting spells. You had to give the undead credit for their tenacity. No fear, no pain. But even that wasn't enough to overcome superior firepower. Swish. 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 Crossbow bolts flew like streaks of light. The shield wall shattered instantly. Several of the larger skeleton shield warriors were riddled with arrows, the force turning their brittle bones to dust. The 10 Qin warriors didn't hesitate. They leaped down, drew their spears, and charged, each step heavy, puff. The skeleton shield warriors, their defenses compromised, were thrown into chaos. In a flash, the long spears had cut down several of them. The Qin warriors, like tigers among sheep, tore through the ranks. A thrust, a drag, a sweep of the spear, and the skeleton shield warriors were gone. The skeleton mages, seeing the carnage, abandoned their spell preparations and fired what they had, but the Qin warriors charged forward, drawing their swords and slashing. Qi. Blades of energy flashed, dissipating the flames and ice. Bang. Smoke billowed as the skeleton mages tried to retreat. But the Qin warriors emerged from the smoke, their swords seeking and destroying their targets. Watching from the wooden wall, Wu Qi felt a mixture of satisfaction and disappointment. This skirmish hadn't really shown off the Qin warriors' full capabilities. Still, their complete victory proved their strength. These guys were way better than Peppa Pig or any other pushovers. Well drilled, disciplined. Their coordination is excellent. Lin Daiyu and Qin Keqing arrived. They'd been patrolling elsewhere. Finding no enemies, the Qin warriors returned, leaping back onto the wooden wall, their faces behind their bronze masks flushed with excitement. Your Majesty. All enemies eliminated. Good. Wu Qi nodded, relieved. After instructing them to continue guarding, Wu Qi went back to the Red Mansion. How many void crystals do I need to summon another one? Wu Qi was getting impatient. Red Mansion was great, turning out Golden Legend heroes like it was nothing, a straight-up cheat code. But, Chapter 53, Above Legend. 1/4. Please collect. Unlike normal altars, Red Mansion only gave you a chance at a hero. He'd spent 2,000 void crystals at once before, only to get women's clothing, jewelry, equipment, and no heroes. You needed to keep a stockpile of void crystals to withstand a long battle. Wu Qi didn't dare to spend them all, only allotting a few after each battle. This is such a rip-off. It's just like drawing cards in a gacha game. And the first time I drew, with just 10 void crystals, Lin Daiyu popped out. Why does this feel like one of those pay-to-win games from my old life? Wu Qi grimaced. Since Lin Daiyu, every summoning of 10 void crystals had yielded junk. And even the women's clothing was leagues below what he got with high-level summons. It was the difference between burlap and silk, between bare waists and jade ornaments. He loved and hated Red Mansion, in equal measure. He loved it because it was awesome, because the heroes were exactly what he wanted, beautiful and captivating. He hated it because he was always broke. If he had an endless supply of void crystals, he'd summon all the 12 beauties of Jinling right now. Still, he went ahead with his habitual 10x summon, the ink scroll unfurled, the figure ethereal, the clouds rising, like something out of a dream. Hint, obtained bronze mirror x1. Hint, obtained, Osmanthus Cake, X1. Hint, obtained Towel X1. Hint, obtained Hero, Lin Dayu. Hint, obtained Palace Dress X1. Figures, more trash. Wuqi watched the hints pop up, his face falling, then, a golden hint flashed, and he froze. Jackpot. Wait, it's Lady Lin again. Can you summon two of the same hero? Wuqi was stunned, but he didn't see a second Lady Lin. Instead, a golden scroll lay on the table. Chapter 44. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, here's the translation. He opened the scroll. It was a portrait of Lin Dayu. But this scroll also had a stat sheet. Wang Mingmei, Lin Dayu, type, Destiny Portrait, quality, Golden Legend function, use on the hero, Lin Dayu, to upgrade her quality, base stats, stat growth, and talent, description. You already have the hero Lin Dayu, so this summon awarded you her exclusive Destiny Portrait. Got it. A Golden Legend upgrade, huh? Wuqi's eyes lit up. Instead of rushing off to find Lin Dayu, he decided to try summoning again, a golden on the first try, out of 10 summons, could it be? Wuqi looked at his void crystals. He gritted his teeth and spent 2,900 of them on regular summons. Later, Wuqi walked out of the Red Mansion, stone-faced, inside the palace, in a gorgeous bedroom. Sister Lin was dozing on a chaise lounge. She suddenly opened her eyes and looked toward the door. Wuqi walked in and saw Lin Dayu sitting up. Sleeping? He asked, grinning. Just a catnap. I was about to wake up anyway. Lin Dayu stretched, showing off her slender figure. Did you need something, sir? That she looked at Wuqi, a knowing smile playing on her lips. Wuqi didn't think twice. I've got something cool to show you. That he handed her the Destiny Portrait. Lin Dayu took the scroll and examined it, surprised. This is a portrait of me. Give it a try. Wuqi winked. Lin Dayu trusted Wuqi completely. Without hesitation, she used it. Instantly, the scroll turned into motes of light and streamed into her body. Lin Dayu. Details omitted. Quality, Golden Legend, 1/9, Talent, Unbreakable Will, +2. Bloodline, Crimson Pearl Immortal Grass, +2. Physique, 10/10 +21, Base Stat 90, Skill Stat 10, Multiplier 1000%. Equipment Stat 21, Bond Stat 10, Spirit, 240 +7, Base Stat 13, Skill Stat 10, Multiplier 1000%. Equipment Stat 7, Bond Stat 10, the panel appeared, and Wuqi saw the change in her quality. January 9th. Does that mean at September 9th, she'll rank up again? What's above Golden Legend? Wuqi frowned. He'd never heard of anything above Golden Legend, but figured that was due to his limited knowledge. It's not like schools or the internet covered this stuff. Maybe nobody had reached that level in this lore-dominated era. Or maybe there was a taboo about exceeding Golden Legend, and that information was kept secret from ordinary lords. P.S. Please favorite and follow. Chapter 54. The real boss is here. 2/4. Please favorite and follow. Above Legend, what quality comes next? Wuqi was fascinated, desperate to know. He figured it was more likely that the information was blocked, not that nobody had it. This was a new era, anything was possible. Across the heavens and realms, all races battled for dominance, universes were born and destroyed in the endless void, and worlds rose and fell. There had to be something beyond Legend. But if the information was hidden, there was probably a good reason. Worst-case scenario, surpassing Legend involved terrifying dangers, so the knowledge was suppressed. Best case, Legend was a threshold. You had to reach a certain level to understand the secrets. Knowing it too early wouldn't help, of course. Wuqi was just guessing. He'd read tons of novels back in his previous life and knew the general theories. He couldn't put them into practice, but he was a master armchair strategist. Basically, I'll keep my eyes peeled, but won't blab about it. Wuqi decided. Lin Dayu had also snapped out of it. Feeling her newfound power, she was at a loss for words, but Wuqi had made it all possible. Having a master like him, wasn't she lucky? She glanced at Wu Qi, who was lost in thought, and smiled. Yes, that she was. Holy crap. Stats over 1,000. Wu Qi blurted, his face twitching. He did the math. And Lin Daiyu had undergone a huge transformation. At level 1, Lin Daiyu's base stats were 20, and stat growth was 5, now. Her stats that were equivalent to level 1 base stats of 60, and stat growth of 10. That was just the stats. The upgrade also improved her talent and bloodline. If I summoned a 3-headed Buddhist disciple, would it be like a father slapping his son? Wu Qi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was happy because he had a boss-level fighter on his side, making the newbie trial much easier, but he was also bummed because he'd never be able to beat her in a fight. 1000 physique meant serious endurance. After the newbie trial, I need to unlock my Lord abilities ASAP. I want to crush mountains with a single punch. Wu Qi was envious, but thinking about having Daiyu and others to rely on, he couldn't help but grin. Lin Daiyu had been watching Wu Qi the whole time, seeing his complex expression, like he wanted to laugh but was also annoyed, was hilarious. She'd never met anyone like him in her previous life, compared to those who were either naive or fake. Wu Qi made her feel at ease. So, she just watched him in silence, enjoying the peaceful moment. Night. 7:30 p.m. The dark, endless void finally descended into chaos. Pale skeletons emerged from the mist, heading for the wooden walls. Wu Qi had been waiting a while. Seeing the monsters, he grabbed the lens of true sight. Skeleton Summoner. Chapter 45. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Race, Undead/Void, Level, 11. Physique, 50. Spirit, 110. Skills, Summon Dead, Resurrection, Bone Shield. Introduction, the dead are here. Elite Skeleton Summoner, Race, Undead/Void, Level, 13. Physique, 60. Spirit, 130. Skills, Summon Undead, Resurrection, Bone Shield. Dark Sky. Introduction, the undead and darkness will swallow everything. Skeleton Knight, Race, Undead/Void, Level, 12. Physique, 110. Spirit, 10. Skills, Undead Charge, Ghost / Fire Enchant. Introduction, Lord of the Withered Land, Elite Skeleton Knight, Race, Undead/Void, Level, 15. Physique, 150. Spirit, 20. Skills, Undead Charge, Death Knight Stomp, Hellfire / Hellfire Enchant. Introduction, Let the World Wither. Now that's what I'm talking about. Wu Qi's eyes went wide. This was the real monster invasion on day 11. The earlier skeletons were just a warm-up. But, aren't these stats a little much? Thanks, Void, for thinking so highly of me. Wu Qi griped, if I told my teachers about this, they'd think I was pulling their leg. How can a new lord face monsters with stats over 100 in the newbie trial? Do you think I'm some chosen one? Like father, like son. Yeah, right. P.S. Please add this to your favorites. I'm committed to daily updates. I'll be posting at least 10,000 words per day once this hits the shelves. Chapter 55, Undead Sign, 3/4. Please collect. Through the fog, skeleton soldiers appeared, mostly skeleton summoners and skeleton knights, coming from all directions. There were tons of them. They moved fast, the skeleton knights charging toward the territory in formation. You could tell at a glance this was a serious army, well-trained and powerful. Undead are born killing machines. Clatter. 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 Their footsteps echoed in the distance, like a death knell. It was terrifying. Wu Qi felt a little nervous, not because he was scared, but because he felt the pressure of facing such a large group. About 3,000. Qin Keqing, peering through her Feng Yu Bao Jian, seemed to see far into the distance. More than 3,000. That's not bad, Wu Qi said, relieved. Then, he felt a little silly. The invasion of 3,000 plus monsters with stats over 100 wasn't even a threat to him anymore. After 11 days of grinding, fighting fire with fire, and riding the benefits of the newbie trial and his lucky break, he'd shattered all his earlier plans and reached heights he never dreamed possible. For a moment, Wu Qi felt like he'd stepped into a different world. But, these thoughts, while powerful, flashed through his mind in a heartbeat. He quickly snapped back to focus and began to manage the situation, adjusting the battle order of the 4 defense towers. Same rules as before. Once they were in range, all control measures were deployed. Green stink mist shot out, ambushing the skeleton knights. At first, it seemed like nothing, just some mist. The skeleton knights figured they were undead and didn't care, but as soon as they entered the cloud, they started dropping like flies. One after another, they face-planted. The skeleton knight behind didn't react in time and tripped over the skeleton and horse in front of them. In moments, they were all down. Skeletons can actually be taken down by stink bombs, Lin Daiyu said, giving the stinky bomb towers a weird look. Was this even possible? Makes perfect sense, Wu Qi said confidently, crossing his arms and smirking, at the same time. Under Wu Qi's control, the output-type defense towers went into action. Pyroblasts roared out. The level 5 pyroblast tower packed a punch. The explosions were bigger, and the flames were hotter. Each blast sent dozens of skeleton knights flying. They weren't killed outright, but their limbs were shattered on the ground, which was as good as dead. Then came the earth vines, frost spells, crossbow bolts, lightning strikes, machine guns. Compared to yesterday, there were more defense towers today, and they were all upgraded to level 5. The damage was on another level. Bang, bang, and crackling sounds filled the air. The earth shook, dust flew, skeleton knights stumbled and fell under the onslaught. Finally, a skeleton knight was killed, then a second, a third. Before long, hundreds of skeleton knights had fallen to this round of attacks. The surviving skeleton knights, mostly elite monsters, dragged their wounded bodies out of the stink range and struggled to reach the wooden walls. Fire rain, Wu Qi shouted suddenly, waving his hand. Boom. The air shimmered with heat. A rain of fire gathered overhead and poured down on the ground. The whistling sound of the rapidly falling fire blasted the skeleton knights near the wooden walls. The skeleton knights were already hurt. Many were killed instantly, reducing their numbers significantly. Chapter 46. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next wave of defense tower attacks hit. Explosions and roars, magic and tech weapons, ancient artifacts. The defense towers formed a deadly net, strangling every enemy. Go! Wu Qi signaled. His 10 great Qin warriors leaped down. Qin crossbows fired, piercing through a dozen skeleton knights. Halberds in hand, they charged. It was a total rout. Soon, skeleton knights lay shattered in every direction. Wu Qi gazed into the distance. The skeleton mages were still there. Too far. Only a few defense towers can reach them. Wu Qi paused, considering his options. Days passed, then the skeleton mages moved. The eerie flames on their skulls flickered as they raised their staffs. The ground rumbled, pale arms erupted from the earth. Instantly, countless skeletal troops materialized around the territory. Skeleton mages, skeleton shield warriors, skeleton swordsmen, individually weak, they were endless in number, forming a massive undead horde. Tens of thousands, at least. The undead legion lives up to its reputation, Wu Qi said, unsurprised. He thought quickly. Earthquake. Activate. Chapter 56, Earthquake. Firestorm. On one side of the territory, the earthquake tower pulsed, earthy light radiating from its crystals. The effect was devastating. The earth quaked, the ground in the middle of the undead army shattered, shockwaves rippling outwards. Light and shadow distorted, rumble. Boom. The earth trembled as nature clashed with the undead. Most of the thousands of undead were summoned creatures of slightly lower strength, but, still, even a basic skeleton soldier had impressive stats, a sprint speed of nearly 30 feet per second, a jump of 12 feet, enough strength to break a tree, and bones offered formidable defense. Tens of thousands of these monsters comprised a terrifying undead natural disaster. Boom, but the earthquake spell was no joke. A level 5 earthquake had a massive range, engulfing the surrounding area. The shockwaves instantly killed weaker skeleton mages. Unlucky skeleton swordsmen were ripped apart. Most importantly, the earthquake staggered thousands of skeletons, each one struggled against the cracked earth. Then. Firestorm, Wu Qi commanded. The flame judgment tower glowed with golden light. The firebird within took flight, materializing as a colossal flaming bird dozens of yards long. Screech! The giant bird shrieked, engulfing itself in flames, diving toward the undead army. Boom! An intense heat erupted, instantly shattering hundreds of skeletons. The shock wave and flames washed over thousands more. Whoa! Wu Qi breathed. With a wave, he activated the remaining defense towers. Stink bombs, ground vines, frost, lightning, fireballs, machine guns, crossbows, a barrage of attacks rained down. One skeleton swordsman advanced through a hail of machine gun fire, its frame undeterred by the enhanced bullets. It roared, only to be coated in frost and flames, then struck in the head by a crossbow bolt. A dozen skeleton shield warriors formed a defensive line, trying to advance. Then, a fireball blasted them apart. Before they could rise, lightning crackled, turning them to shattered bones. 3 skeleton mages were interrupted by vines erupting from the ground, binding them. Horrified, they blasted the vines with magic, but then they were frozen solid, and 3 crossbow bolts ended them. The battle raged. There were too many undead. If previous attacks were tides, this was a tsunami. The attack threatened to destroy the ship. Inside the wooden walls, the defense towers roared, unleashing a symphony of destruction. Wu Qi monitored everything, spending void crystals to replenish the defense tower supplies. Lin Daiyu approached, her pretty brows furrowed with worry. She bowed and said softly, "Sir, may I lead a team to eliminate those skeleton summoners? They are immortal, and the sea of the dead is endless." Her voice was gentle, but her words were resolute. She had the skills, no doubt. Wu Qi considered it, nodded, and whispered his plan in her ear. Sister Lin blushed at the close contact, a pink hue creeping up her neck, but she quickly understood and nodded. Wu Qi then asked Qin Keqing to lead the great Qin warriors to hunt the skeleton summoners. Qin Keqing, ever clever, agreed with a playful wink. She seemed a little nervous. Chapter 47. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Edited content. A few days ago, I was just some lady. Now, suddenly, I'm a hero who can breathe frost. Feels like a dream. And now, he wants me to lead a squad to take down the enemy. Okay, deep breath. With a look of determination on her pretty face, she jumped down from the wall with the elite warriors. Watching her go, Wu Qi couldn't help but smile. This girl, she's really giving it her all. P.S. Please add to your library. Chapter 57, Hunters and Prey in the Mist, 5 of 4. Please add to your library. The sea of undead roared and churned. Some undead had already reached the wooden wall, using their abilities to attack the withered wooden wall, like crazy, but not many could actually break through the defensive towers. Affected by the power of withering, they immediately slowed down and were taken out by the defense tower. Meanwhile, behind the sea of the dead, a team was cautiously sneaking around. A skeleton summoner was hard at work, summoning monsters. Skeleton troops were appearing one by one, rising from the ground. What's weird is that no matter how many skeleton soldiers popped up, the ground didn't even sink a little. So, these skeletons aren't really buried. It's some kind of summoning spell. Hold. Hold the line. Suddenly, a roar. The music of Qin, somber and strong. The skeleton summoner instinctively turned his head and saw a crossbow bolt flying right at him. Thwack, thud. The bolt pierced the skull summoner's head, sending him flying 10 meters before he crashed to the ground. He scrambled to his feet, his skull silently screaming at the direction of the crossbow, but the next moment, several more bolts flew his way. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The skeleton summoner was hit again and again. The force shattered his skeletal body to pieces. Other bone summoners started to catch on that something was up. Just as they were about to summon reinforcements, a blast of frost rained down from above, freezing them in place. Then, from the mist, 10 powerful figures charged in, their halberds cutting through the darkness, knocking each skeleton summoner off their feet and stabbing them down for good. Snap! In a flash, several skeleton summoners were finished. Then, the great Qin warriors melted back into the fog, becoming ruthless hunters, looking for their prey. Meanwhile, on the other side of the sea of the undead were still bashing away at the territory, the roar of the defense towers never letting up. Wu Qi stood alone on the wooden wall, frantically repairing and restocking his supplies, holding back the surrounding sea of undead, and in the mist, skeleton summoners were being picked off left and right. The 10 great Qin warriors moved silently, quickly, and powerfully. In that short time, they'd taken down thousands of skeleton summoners, shrinking the sea of the dead considerably. Qin Keqing was a little embarrassed trailing behind the great Qin elite, as a hero, and the one Wuqi appointed to lead the team. Well, the warriors were basically leading her. When it came to combat awareness and fighting skills, Qin Keqing was way behind. These guys were cold-blooded and lethal. Once they went in, it was a fatal combo. Not that the skeleton summoners were pushovers. Some of the elites weren't easy to take down in one shot, but against the great Qin warriors, even elite monsters couldn't hold up. The Qin crossbow sang, the halberd stabbed, the Qin sword cut. Behind their bronze masks, not a warrior showed fear or hesitated. Step by step, they fought through the darkness and fog. In this environment, Qin Keqing couldn't help but dive in, doing her best to cooperate while trying to learn something. Just then, the great Qin warriors spotted another group of skeleton summoners in the fog. 8 elite summoners were leading about 50 regular ones, all busy summoning monsters. The warriors were just within range when the monsters started to get a whiff of them. Thwack, 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 that the crossbow bolts flew. The next moment, 10 figures followed close behind. And behind them, Qin Keqing took a deep breath, held up the Feng Yu treasure mirror, and unleashed her frost breath. The fight was on. In the mist, a fuzzy shape emerged. It was pale, and 7 or 8 meters tall. On its skeletal body, the white bones shimmered like flowing silver mercury, distorted, blurred. It had been there for a while, just watching. When the great Qin special forces had set out, it had noticed them. And it had been tracking them. Quack, that the 2 soul fires on the monster's head flickered, and its massive body began to blur, becoming invisible in the blink of an eye. Invisible to the naked eye, undetectable by radar, beyond perception, it was like it had slipped into another dimension. A bizarre, terrifying face appeared, and it started moving toward them. Closer, 800 meters, 500 meters, 300 meters, 200 meters, 100 meters. The monster radiated a weird, terrifying aura, its skeletal body writhing, turning into spears oozing a withered, corrosive power. It raised its spears and aimed them at the fighting warriors and Qin Keqing. This was a monster that was born to ambush, silent and deadly, without any telltale killing intent. It was cunning and meticulous. Before making its move, it had taken its time to observe. Hiss! In an instant, the space twisted, the monster roared, and its massive body lunged, turning into a pale streak of light as it crossed 100 meters, and swiped at Qin Keqing. Die! She had to die. The monster grinned wickedly. But in that split second, just as it leapt and brought down its bone spear, a soft, gentle voice echoed through the mist. One bite swallows the heavens. Chapter 58, The battle is over. SSS rank 6/4. Please add to your library. The gentle voice, a beautiful murmur. In the deathly darkness, that it was like the whisper of death, the monster froze, and suddenly realized that someone was standing right in front of him. Chapter 48. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When? Who is she? How did she just appear out of nowhere? Undead creatures with brains are rare, but they do exist. The skeleton monster was totally baffled. It had been watching for so long and had never seen that human before. Then, it was lights out. The huge body was torn to shreds, and the skeleton monster didn't even know what hit it until it was dead. Instant kill. Meanwhile, Qin Keqing and the warriors saw the whole thing. They saw a terrifying monster suddenly materialize. Then, before they could even react to the danger, Lin Daiyu, who'd seemingly appeared out of thin air, obliterated it. They didn't even catch how she did it. She was too fast. In a flash, there were dozens of afterimages, a burst of white light, and the monster was in pieces. Swallowing the weather, a legendary skill, deployed for the first time with no audience. Off in the distance, at the wooden wall, that Wuqi, who had been keeping a close watch, also noticed the change in the battlefield. Most noticeably, the skeleton summoners had become a scattered mess, leaderless, fighting on their own. the once terrifying undead horde suddenly became far less of a threat as chaos erupted. Wu Qi breathed a sigh of relief, repairing the wooden wall while restocking his inventory, then he started cleaning up the battlefield with the defense tower, time to mop up. As the heroes and soldiers rallied, a full-scale rout commenced, countless skeleton monsters were reduced to dust and swallowed by the void. Over an hour later, Wu Qi, panting, leaned against the wooden wall to rest. The battle was over. The battle is over. Calculating rewards, battle rewards, enemies, 1,800 level 12 skeleton knights, 900 level 15 elite skeleton knights, 2,000 skeleton summoners, 1,000 elite skeleton summoners, 1 boss, Shadow Bones, rating, SSS. Base reward, 5,701 Void Source Stones, bonus rewards, 15,000 Void Crystals, 10,000 Void Source Stones, equipment, Sword of Shadows, Territory Building, Lightning Enchanted Stone Wall, Territory Building, Bathhouse. Nice, that's a good haul. Wu Qi stretched and took a closer look. Only the skeleton summoners and skeleton knights counted towards the rewards for this wave. The Sea of the Dead summoned by the summoners didn't count. Wu Qi couldn't help but feel bummed. If they counted, he'd really be swimming in rewards. Looking around, only those 2 monster types dropped loot chests, not their summons. Come to think of it, that makes sense. If summoned creatures gave separate rewards, it would be way too easy. But, SSS rating, Wu Qi was stoked, checking his account, a huge influx of void crystals and void source stones made him grin. Was it the boss that gave us the higher score? Wu Qi wondered, stroking his chin. The battle had been tight. Based on previous battles, this wave would have likely been rated S. If he was unlucky, he might not have gotten anything higher than an A, but it was SSS. Meaning, a crucial factor was involved, the boss. Wu Qi didn't even see the boss, Shadow Bones. He didn't even have time to scan it to know its stats, and it just died. The worst boss ever. Wu Qi couldn't help but grin. He looked at the 3 special rewards and started with the equipment. It was a bone sword with black veins running through it. The creepy thing was, the black veins on the sword were moving, constantly twisting and squirming like living things. Sword of Shadows, type, equipment, quality, golden legend, level 11, base damage, 150 plus constitution x 10%, bonus shadow damage, 100 plus physique x 10%. Attribute 1, strength plus 50, spirit plus 50, attribute 2, spirit plus 50, attribute 3, slight shadow resistance boost, requirements, 100 constitution, 200 spirit, description, only a strong mind and will can resist the corrupting influence of the shadows. So, it's the power of shadow. Wu Qi grimaced at the black veins on the sword. He'd read about the power of shadow in textbooks. It originated in various shadow-infused heavens, realms, planes, and universes. The shadow attribute was corrosive. It corroded not just matter but also elements, souls, minds, and wills. Thus, equipment imbued with shadow magic had steep attribute requirements, especially spirit. Chapter 59, Thundercloud Stone Wall. Mirror Lake. 1/4. Please collect it. The restrictions highlighted the limitations of the Sword of Shadows. As a level 11 golden legendary sword, its power was undeniable, but what was the deal with 200 spirit points? Typically, a hero or lord would need to be level 20 or even 30 to have that many attribute points. Otherwise, wielding the Sword of Shadows meant succumbing to its corrupting influence, and your soul would slowly rot. The consequences were dire. It's awesome, but sadly, I can't use it. I'll show it to Sister Lin later. Wu Qi clicked his tongue and examined the other rewards. 2 territory buildings. One was a special building, Lightning Enchanted Stone Wall. Its properties were simple. It was a stone wall, much stronger than the wooden one, enchanted with lightning, which would paralyze and shock any attacking enemies. This was a unique, original building. What would the Golden Finger make of it? Recalling the Fire Rain Tower, and the Fire Judgment Tower, Wu Qi was eager to find out. As for the bathhouse, it seemed rather ordinary, but having a place to shower would be nice. There were already 13 people in the territory and he'd be recruiting more soon, so a big bathhouse would come in handy. After thinking it over, Chapter 49. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wu Qi tossed out the two buildings, and they expanded as they floated to the south side of his territory. Lightning enchantment stone wall, plus, bathhouse, plus, same old plus sign, same old cheat. Wu Qi didn't bother checking the stats and just clicked. 5 colored light shot from his body, hitting the two buildings in a flash. Seconds later, the light faded, revealing the transformed buildings. The stone wall was now 15 meters tall, etched with dense purple patterns that formed thunderclouds. The bathhouse had become an open-air lake, complete with a pavilion in the middle, weeping willows, and a layer of mist clinging to the water. The lake was crystal clear, almost mirror-like, and radiated a sense of peace. Wu Qi just glanced at it and felt the stress melt away. Thundercloud enchantment stone wall, per unit, type, wall, level, 1, 0/200, function, all-around protection, durability, 1000/1000, enchantment, thundercloud, level 1, inventory, 100/100, description. Attacking this wall will get you zapped by lightning. And not just once or twice. 1000 durability at level 1, not bad. Thundercloud is a pretty advanced spell, I remember. To see it on a territory building? Sweet. But the upgrade, 200 just to go from level 1 to 2, that Wu Qi's mouth twitched, his excitement over getting all those void source stones fizzling out. Yep, another money pit. Still, this thundercloud stone wall was a huge upgrade over the old withered wood wall, and Wu Qi knew it. Luckily, extending the stone wall didn't cost too many void crystals, so he could still swing it. His territory was currently 5,000 square meters, 50 by 100 in size, so, he tore down the withered wood wall, placed the buildings where he wanted, and then built 300 units of the extended Thundercloud enchantment stone wall, at 10 void crystals per unit. That was 3,000. Then, gritting his teeth, Wu Qi leveled up the stone wall to level 5 in one go. Void Source Stone, 200. Void Source Stone, 500. Void Source Stone, 1000. Void Source Stone, 1500. By level 5, the stone wall was taller and wider, each unit had 10,000 durability, and the Thunder Cloud spell was also at level 5. This wave of improvements maxed out his territory's defenses, so he wouldn't have to worry about security for a while. If that three-headed Buddha came back for another round, it wouldn't even be able to dent the wall. Now, about those changes to the bathhouse. Wu Qi looked it over, a strange expression on his face. Mirror Lake, type, bathhouse, level, 1, 0/200, area, 500 square meters, function, bathing, hot springs, cleansing the heart, relieving fatigue, inventory, 10 out of 10, description. Soothe your soul with the flow of hot spring water. Even though it was called a lake, it covered 500 square meters, making it one of the larger structures on his territory, and since it was just a bathhouse, there was no need to upgrade it. Yet, with that done, Wu Qi strolled back to the palace, and chilled out in his room. The next day, Wu Qi was up at 5 a.m. P.S. Please add this to your library. It will be available in a few days, and I'll be able to update it more frequently then, starting with 10,000 words per day. Chapter 60, How did he kill him? 2/4. Please add this to your library. The dimly lit room was quiet. He stretched and wandered outside. Waking up after washing his face, he saw the heroic Daqin warriors, patrolling the stone wall. Even with only 10 soldiers, they were on top of things. I can recruit more Daqin warriors now. The level 5 barracks can hold 50 different types of soldiers. Wu Qi headed towards the Qin's warriors barracks. A few steps later, he saw Lin Daiyu and Qin Keqing sitting in the pavilion in Mirror Lake, chatting over tea. The cool breeze and the shade of the willows were no match for the beauty of the two women. They looked rested and had smiles on their faces. After a moment, Wu Qi decided to head to the pavilion instead of the barracks. The two beauties were heroes with amazing stats. As Wu Qi approached, they turned their heads, surprise lighting up their beautiful faces. Why are you up so early? Sister Lin blinked, looking confused as to why Wu Qi was up so early. Qin Keqing just smiled. Early to bed, early to rise, Wu Qi said with a smile. Looks like we had no monster invasions last night. We had a few. About 100, Qin Kaching said softly, filling him in on the previous night's events. On day 12, the monsters weren't undead, but small, green-skinned creatures covered in flames and reeking of sulfur. But the defense towers took them out before they even got close to the stone wall. Sir, we opened the treasure chests last night and at midnight. Lin Daiyu pointed to the right. Everything is over there. Oh, that Wu Qi turned and saw a pile of loot sitting in a clearing next to Mirror Lake. Thanks for your hard work. You two were on guard in the middle of the night. You should rest up more. Wu Qi smiled. It's okay. Sister Lin shook her head and said softly, we have high stats, so we don't need much sleep. Plus, this place is actually really relaxing. Just sitting here rejuvenates you. Sister Lin blinked, seeming to love the scenery. Mirror Lake, the so-called mirror. Chapter 50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The lake was a mirror, the water so still and clear you could see right through it. Man, this is begging for a swim. Wu Qi said, a sly grin spreading across his face. Lin Marin just rolled her eyes, her pretty face flushing. Qin Kaching was a little shy, too. She thought about her relationship with Wu Qi and hesitated, not saying anything. Seeing the two beauties blushing, Wu Qi chuckled. He thought for a second, then pulled out the sword of shadows and handed it to Lin Daiyu. What do you think of this? Lin Daiyu took the sword, surprised. What a fearsome weapon. You're way scarier. Wu Qi couldn't help but blurt out. Lin Daiyu's stats were already over 1,000, and she was only level 5, this level 11 sword couldn't even compare to her. Lin Daiyu huffed, so, the young master thinks of me as just a tool. Okay, he couldn't win against Lin Daiyu's logic. Wu Qi just shrugged and said with a smile, how about using it as a weapon? Not my style. I prefer gloves. Lin Daiyu thought for a moment, then shook her head. But it'll do in a pinch. Okay. Oh, what happened with yesterday's boss? Wu Qi nodded, then asked. Hearing this, Qin Kaching gave Lin Daiyu a curious look. Lin Daiyu was calm. Killed it. How? One-hit KO. After leaving Mirror Lake, Wu Qi gathered up everything the two heroes had pulled from the treasure chest, a total of 9,241 void crystals, 2,380 void source stones, 7 pieces of equipment, a skill book, a territory building blueprint for a warehouse, and a special red package. The void crystals and void source stones were quickly stashed away. Wu Qi glanced at the equipment and skill books. The best was a blue one, the warrior's whirlwind skill. Useless to him, so he set it aside. The warehouse, though. Perfect timing. The territory was in dire need of a warehouse, and the chest coughed one up. Wu Qi didn't hesitate, tossing the blueprint down. A small warehouse like a barn appeared out of nowhere. Small warehouse, plus, PS, please add to your library. We're going live soon. Finally hitting 10,000 words a day, so updates will be more frequent. Please support. Chapter 6, Small Universe, Day 15. 3/4. Please add to your library. Power up. 5-colored divine light burst from Wu Qi's body and enveloped the small warehouse. Almost instantly, the divine light dispersed. A brand new building stood before Wu Qi. Small universe world, type, warehouse, level, 1/0/500, covered area, 100 square meters, contained space, 1,000 cubic meters, function, hand of streaming light, level 1, stock, 100/100. Items, introduction, a secret treasure from a certain immortal cultivation sect, a mustard seed universe capable of storing all things. Whoa! Wu Qi's eyes widened. He was taken aback. The warehouse had changed a lot, transforming from a barn-like structure to a mysterious hexahedron. It was black and gold, with Tai Chi Yin and Yang symbols swirling on it, emitting golden light. At first glance, you would think it was some kind of magical artifact. But looking closer at the upgrade requirements, the small universe world was clearly no ordinary building, more high-tech like the Fire Judgment Tower. As for the streaming hand, it was a built-in function that came with the small universe world, designed to collect items. Wu Qi thought for a moment and placed some everyday items from the treasure box on the ground, then, he activated the small universe realm. One stock lasted for 1 hour, the next moment, a stream of light shot from the small universe, wrapped the items on the ground, and zipped back in an instant. Wu Qi focused on the small universe, and a panel appeared in his mind, listing the types and quantities of items inside the small universe, space. Super convenient, that Wu Qi was pleased. The territory wasn't that big yet, so it wouldn't be a game changer right away. But when the territory expanded, its usefulness would really shine. He tossed most of the items he was carrying on the ground, and the streaming light went into overdrive, grabbing everything and putting it into the small universe realm. Qin Jisher stood at the camp gate. Wu Qi walked over and opened the recruitment interface. He maxed it out in one go. Soon, the curtain at the gate opened, and beautiful women with heroic expressions and determined spirits emerged one after another. They spoke softly, but there was no aimless chatter. With strong eyes, they stood in a neat row and saluted in unison. Your Majesty, .40 Great Qin Warriors. Excellent, that Wu Qi nodded, briefed the girls on the situation, and led them to the item refining workshop to get them outfitted. He also conveniently leveled them up to level 5 in one fell swoop. That practically emptied his void crystal reserves. There weren't many void source stones left either, but it was worth it. Only through battle can they hone their fighting skills. Day 12. The fighting continued. Not long after Wu Qi had settled down for a rest, a large horde of monsters attacked. They were green-skinned creatures called fire goblins, bloated and wreathed in flames, pretty intimidating. Their stats weren't that great, but they had some fire resistance, so the fire-based defense towers like the Pyroblast Tower and Flame Tower were less effective. Luckily, there were plenty of other types of defense towers, and the combined attacks wiped out hundreds more. While Wu Qi opened the reward boxes, he and the girls fought off the invasion. Day 13. After an all-nighter, the boss from Day 12 showed up at 11 p.m. It was a dragon-blooded goblin, super scary. But Lin Daiyu made short work of it. The great Qin warriors played a big role, too. Their battle formations held back tens of thousands of bugbears. As the days ticked by, small and large battles came and went. Today's boss arrived early. It was a lava giant lizard, a 30-meter monster, rampaging. Its defense and elemental resistance were off the charts. 2 great Qin warriors were killed in the fight, but under the combined assault of heroes, troops, and defense towers, the lava lizard finally fell. Day 14. Day 15. Last night was pretty quiet. Until 9 a.m., no monsters had attacked. The territory now had more buildings than before, several plots of spiritual land.